In this moment, I invite each and every one of you to just be that great wave. As you breathe in, let the love of Spirit just wash over you. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath, breathing in cool, calming air, life itself. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Just let everything go for now. Allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose.
I choose.
I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
I was thinking the other day, because it's coming up that time of year when we make a financial pitch to our congregation, actual and virtual, about year-end giving, and been writing these things for a long time now, so every year I want to make it a little different. And I was thinking about how people say, churches always want money. Churches always want all your money. And what I wanted to say in there is we don't want all your money, but we do want some of your money. So just think about that, because it gives us a beautiful place to come every Sunday. All right, this is not what this is about. The book we're working through this month and next is called Ernest Holmes at Asilomar. It was recently published. Asilomar is a conference center in California where the founder of this teaching vacationed with his tribe and spoke to a room full of people, and then gave classes to smaller groups of people in the various buildings that they have. It's a series of little lodge buildings on this campus, and there's a common room in each one with a big fireplace. This stuff was built in the 1920s, and it's in the arts and crafts style. It's just gorgeous. You see it, and especially if you go in the summertime when it's sweltering here and it's cool and foggy there like it is here today. Anyway, this book was just published. It was a series of these talks that he gave that have been transcribed off of the original tapes. And I neglected to mention last week in setting up this series that it was the Reverend Mark Gilbert who pulled this together. He's the one that actually drove the project and edited the book and brought it out. So I have told him how much I appreciate his great work, and I encourage you to do that too. And if you like, I can put you in touch with him and he can tell you more about it. But in the introduction of the book, he tells the story of how all of this came to be. So I got this book recently, having had a heads up that it was coming out, and it blew my mind. And I thought if only I had a group of people that I could talk about this with. Wait, so here you are. But it's not about Ernest Holmes, and it's not about the book. It's about you. It's always about you. It's always about each one of us and our spiritual program and our spiritual recovery and our spiritual quest, And so what we're getting into today is the idea of the strongest of bonds. Love is the strongest of bonds, and how it ties us all together, and more especially it ties us in with the source of our being, whose nature is love. Love of such a nature, such a dimension, that it's almost impossible to calculate at the human level. Because at the human level things are conditional and things are in flux and in change, and relationships change, and you make friends and then you lose contact with people and new people come into your life and so on. And so there's kind of an ebb and flow to it and a season to it. And we go through periods of time when we want to hole up and be kind of left alone. And then other times when we have the fear of missing out and we want to go out and find where the party is, you know. Well, back of all of that relativity is an absoluteness, the absoluteness of an unchanging and permanent spiritual realm in which we live and which manifests through us. And this is our touchstone. This is our touchstone. This is the thing that we go back to through spiritual practice. I had a great email from one of the members of our tribe here this week who said, you know, I've been hearing you talk about spiritual practice, and I've started to do a regular daily spiritual practice. I was thrilled. I was thrilled because I implore people, this is what is required. You want to know yourself? Where are you going to find it? As lovely as this room is, you're not going to find it in here. As wonderful as the person is sitting next to you, you're not going to find it in them. Where are you going to find the fullness of your own being? Within yourself. And how are you going to do that? Through an occasional visit? Probably not. But through a regular program of spiritual practice. You go to yourself and you meditate and you pray. And, you know, we say, well, I don't know how to meditate. The best way to meditate, the best way to learn to meditate is start meditating. Start doing what you think is meditating. You'll sit there and you'll think about meditating, which isn't the same thing as meditating, but it's a step closer to it. Now am I meditating? Now am I meditating? Am I about to doze off? Wait, is that my third eye opening? Is that what I feel? You know, and we analyze it. And he talks about that in the book. He says you want to go to the place that is beyond the possibility of overanalyzation. You want to go to the aspect of spirit that you simply cannot analyze. You give up. It's all-encompassing. It's all-embracing. It can't be dissected because we can't step away from it. It can't be described because you can't draw a circle around it. You have to sort of surrender into it. You have to sort of relax into the dimension of your spirituality. And how you do that is one step at a time. People will say, you can get superstition. He's writing a lot about superstition elsewhere that I'm reading now, Holmes is. And he says people get superstitious about things like spiritual mind treatment, this 5-step process, which to some people is a 7-step process. And then I got somebody else chimed in. It's a 9-step process in somebody's new book. You keep adding processes. It's like, do you shave? Men, women, do you shave? Okay, you know how handheld razor, manual, whatever you call it, non-electric razor, handheld razor? When I was a kid, they came out with 2 blades. Used to have 1 blade. Now it was a plastic thing. It had 2 blades on it. Then it was 3 blades, 4 blades. Now they have it's 19 blades. You have to, okay, it takes, not making this up, but you have to lift it. You have to lift it with both hands. And you really don't want to slip, you know? So we think, well, what's the right number of steps for treatment? And then, do I have them in the right order? Oh, God, did I omit one? Now what's going to happen? It's the same old superstition, right? Overlaid on the work that we're doing now. It's the same old how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. We want to leave all that analysis aside and say, am I feeling it? Am I feeling like I'm in the presence of the source of my own being? And if not, what's standing in the way of that? What do I have to do? So this is kind of where I want to go this morning. And I'm not going to take up an awful lot of your time. But I want to mention also that it's Veterans Day weekend. And it's probably not accurate to say that we're celebrating that because it's not the sort of event one celebrates. It's a time, I think, for deep reflection. What I will say is deep, profound respect to those who served. My father was a veteran, and the first minister that I took science mind classes from was a World War II veteran. And a number of you in the room are veterans, and a number of you watching online are veterans, and we all long for a time of a world beyond war. And in the meantime, profound respect to you and thank you. And a lot of veterans don't want to hear thank you. And what I want to say to any who might be listening is sometimes it's all we can think of to say. Because we haven't been where you've been, and we haven't seen what you've seen, and we have not had. I have been so fortunate, just speaking for myself in my life, I have never faced mortal dread. I have never wondered if I was going to survive in a hot zone, for the next 15 minutes. And so, thank you is all the words I can form for that. And if you need more than that, it's there for you. But it may not come in the articulation of the people that you're around. So again, to veterans, to people facing PTSD, to people with war-induced trauma, there's a place you can go, and I'm not talking about a physical location. There are those too, and there are people who can help you and be with you. But I'm speaking here of the spiritual dimension. There's a place you can go that's never seen you as anything less than whole. And this holds true for all of us, whatever we've been through. Whatever we've been through. And whatever we've put others through. Because it's not just about being a personal victim, and being on the receiving end of some degree of abuse. But whatever we have fomented for the rest of the world, there is something that sees nothing wrong with us despite that. It just loves us, and it just holds us, and it forges, within itself, it forges these bonds. And that's what he's getting to in this reading that I have here about the bonds that tie us all together. What are these bonds? Our basic humanity, our essence as spiritual beings having a human experience. And we work through these bonds together, and they're not the kind of bonds, they're not shackles, they don't tie us down, but they link our destinies. Look, I said last week, I think, or maybe the week before, or sometime ever, okay, that we have this fear, maybe it was around Halloween, we have this fear of the unknown. You ask people what they fear, and there's heights and public speaking and the unknown, and the order changes, amongst them. The fear of the unknown, which is really kind of silly when you start to think about it, and I take it seriously. Somebody has that fear. I have empathy. And it's still kind of silly, because everything we have now came out of the unknown. All the people you love, all the people you trust, all of the people who do good things in your life, everything you admire, everything you respect was once in the unknown. So why do we look at the unknown and say, oh, no, it can't be happening. I have to know everything. Well, if you knew everything, first of all, you'd freeze it in place. Nothing would be free to change, because if it changed, it would be what? The unknown. People go through this in relationships. People go through this with their kids. We were talking last night at this show, some of us, yes, we sat at the back and talked, Brian, but it wasn't personal. I sat with these two, okay, what can I tell you? And so they, we talked, but we sat at the back and we were talking about the kids that have grown up in this center. And you saw one of them on stage last night, who's 21. And I remember before her parents met, But, well, there was somebody came walking in the room one day, maybe 10 years ago, and said, I just graduated, my name is so-and-so, and I just graduated law school. And I'm like, good for you. And I'm thinking, this person, the name is vaguely, he said, you christened me. You christened me, okay? Well, that person who had just graduated law school was not the same person that I christened, except in name, except in a certain degree of physicality, but certainly didn't look the same. Had grown up and put on a suit and tie and gone off to work and so on, and so people change, and we say this is an outrage that people should change like this, because I thought I knew you. And now look at you. Thought I knew you. Lisa Ryan goes out the door one day. She's Lisa Ryan. She comes back the next day. She's Reverend Lisa Ryan. I thought I knew you. And now look, So the unknown is the place where all of our good is coming from, and we need to learn to trust it. And how do we do that? Well, we trust our relationship to it. We trust ourselves in it. We trust this power that's working through it, that's working through us. And in that, is our salvation. In that is our good. And in that is our context. In Matthew 6:33, I think it is, seek you first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So one of my favorite passages of Scripture, and I'm not a Scripture guy, as most of you know, but that's one of my favorites. Seek you first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Now, what does that mean? What is the kingdom of God? The dimension of recognition of our spiritual home. We take it with us. The kingdom of God is not on a mountain somewhere. It's a context in which we view the world. And all these things shall be added unto you. Well, what are all these things? All of our goals, all of our ambitions, all the stuff we thought would make us happy. I was reading about a celebrity who recently passed away, and it was said of this person, and you probably know who I'm talking about, but I don't want to, this is no reflection on that person or their life at all, but they said that they had this drive to be famous. They had this drive to be famous, and along with it, the drive to be wealthy, and they accomplished both. And they got to that point, and they looked around, and they said, is that all there is? And they were so famous that you'd know the name. And they were so wealthy that they owned a lot of stuff. And they did a lot of good, this person, and were able to do a lot of good. But they had this emptiness that they felt along the way, that I think ultimately started to be filled by recognition of their higher power through recovery. But they got to the place where he said, is that all there is? But there are people today who are still out there in the world who think if I had more money, if I had more power, if I had more prestige, if when I went walking down the street people's heads turned and they said, there goes so-and-so, then that would be enough for me. But ask the people who have that kind of thing, and it isn't. It isn't. Because they need a mooring, they need a grounding, they need a place where they can go and be loved. But we look at celebrity, and we were talking last night, a conversation came up about Taylor Swift, and there's some funny stuff in a class I'm doing on Monday nights about this because there's some Swifties in there, and I brought up Taylor Swift as an example, and I saw faces harden and eyes narrow as they looked at me like, what are you going to say about her? And it's like, nothing but good stuff, okay? I have nothing but good stuff to say about her. And it came up that her concerts in Argentina, one had to be postponed due to the weather. People camped out for tickets for these concerts. You want to talk about famous? How long do you think they camped out? A couple of days, a week, 5 months. 5 months. You can look, I'm not, they're finding it right now. You can, I sure am, she says. That sounds bogus, she said. I love it when I get this reaction down here. They're looking stuff up, and then they're like, wait a minute. No. But how about that? How about that level of fame? And then to have some place to go. And I don't know what her spiritual program is, but I pretty much guarantee you she has one, you know, to go into a place of knowing. But we look at celebrity and we say, well, they're not like us. This is an extraordinary reign of people. And Holmes quotes in this book, the Gita, saying that something to the effect of the key to happiness is to reconcile the pairs of opposites. To reconcile the pairs of opposites. So we feel we have these opposite energies going of maybe fame and obscurity, wealth and poverty. He says, look at these as degrees. This is Hermetic law, by the way, too. Look at these as fixed points of value on a scale of degrees. If somebody's wealthy, somebody else is wealthier. Okay? If somebody else is well known or well thought of, somebody else is currently in the news. And we compare ourselves, and we compare ourselves by station. And this leads up to a little story I wanted to tell you that was also in the news this week in a minor sort of, in a newspaper, it would have been page 72 or something, but it passed my field of vision. Some of you might have seen it. And it's just a little story that's indicative of this. And how what goes around comes around. How our good comes to meet us. There is this woman, young woman, writing this first-person op-ed piece about how some years ago, 10 years ago or something like this, she was going through a real hard time. Okay? Her long-term relationship had just ended. She was out of a job, and she was having health challenges, all on her plate, all at one time. And in the process of interviewing for jobs, one day just kind of gave up on that for the day and said, I'm going to go to the store over here and get some groceries and go home and go to bed, and just kind of try to recharge or something. And so she approaches this like grocery store, and there's this unhoused guy out front who's asking for money, and she sees this in front of her with some others, and some people are giving him some change, and others are just walking by, not even looking at him, and the pain she's in just kind of crashes in on her at the moment, and she's like, I don't need this. I don't need this aggravation in my life right now. So as she approaches the door, the man comes toward her and he says something to the effect of, can you spare some money? And she goes off at him. She just goes off at him. And she just, I guess the expression is, reads him to filth, and goes on in the store and gets down an aisle with her basket, and all of a sudden has this awakening. How could I talk to another human that way? What have I become? What have I become? And she goes back out of the store, and she finds this man. She goes up to him, and she apologizes, profusely apologizes to him. Digs in her pocket, takes out a little money, gives it to him. He takes her, this is the point of the story, if you wondered. He takes her hand between his two hands, his big rough hands, and she's a little scared, and he looks her right in the eye, and he says, you're going to be all right. Okay, let's just sit with that a moment. He says to her, you're going to be all right. This man has nothing. This man is living in a parking lot with a grocery cart filled with his possessions, and he's telling her she's going to be all right. That's the human connection. That's a beautiful and wonderful thing, okay? And all of a sudden, they're not like educated woman looking for a job and unhoused man who, there's no social status regarded here. There's no nothing to separate, no pairs of opposites. No pairs of opposites. There's just this amazing and beautiful connection between these two people. This is a reminder. Is that enough? Is that enough for us to have that kind of connection with people? No, more is called for, because we still have to explore the inner domains. But that's those many things that will be added unto you. How is it that I can feel a sense of connection in a hugely polarized society with people around me that I don't know where they're coming from, and I don't know what they think, and I don't know what their values are, and so on? How can we manage this? As we go to what I still remember from arithmetic class a bazillion years ago called the lowest common denominator, or the most basic common denominator that exists between us. Godling to godling, godling to godling, and all the rest is style points. All the rest is an elaboration on that. All the rest of that is how we've been wounded or processed our lives or forgotten who we are and then awakened again. But the common denominator between us is this one life. And I promise you, if you develop the regular spiritual practice and you go into this life and you say to it, this has been a mantra for a few years here now, show me who I am. Show me who I am. With that will come door prizes. Just bound to. Because in showing you who you are, here come more opportunities. In showing you who you are, here come more connections. Here come especially more ideas. Here come more wonderful things for you to learn about, to be able to share, and to be able to inspire, to be able to help. Okay, got a couple of items I want to read to you out of this book. If I didn't mention it before, the book is available. We have a stack of these now, so you can tumble all over each other in the garden getting over to it. There's a whole pile of these over there, and I hope you'll, if you exhaust the pile, we'll buy another pile. So, it is time that truth came, clean, unadulterated, and real. There's nothing trying anything in the universe, and never was and never will be. If there were, you would have a universal law that is self-destructive. In other words, it wouldn't be the fullness of what it is. It'd be trying to be the fullness of what it is, and it would fall apart in the process. This is Holmes I'm reading. I admit we learn by experience tragically and in pain. But what do we learn? Only that the tragedy and pain exhaust themselves, both physically and mentally. And you are so reduced that finally through this method, you might get quiet long enough to let in some influx that had never really gone out. I think we do learn by experience, most certainly, and I know that I do, and it is a tough way to learn it. Okay? Some influx that had never really gone out. So there's a part of us that's never been broken. There's a part of us that's never been wounded. There's a part of us that's never wanted for anything. Where, for crying out loud, is this part of us found? Behind our thoughts, behind the analysis, behind the judgment. And by judgment, I mean the constant critique that we make of incoming experience. Behind that is this recognition. I like to think of it as the I am. I turn the first person singular of the verb to be into a noun. I'm not the only one to do that. Add the indefinite article at the front of it. The I am. The I am. There is the great I am. That is the name. One name. Lots of names, but it's my favorite today. It's my favorite this week for spirit. Infinite mind is good too. They're all interchangeable, but I like to think of it as the great I am because it brings it home. Infinite mind sounds like it's out at the Crab Nebula or something, whereas the I am is standing right here as the I am that what? The I am that I am. The I am. Now, what in the world does that mean? It sounds like double speak. Well, it sort of is. I am that I am. It's sort of saying what you see is what you get. It's sort of saying it is what it is. The great I am, unchanging, unyielding, consistent, constant, utterly accessible. And I add to that, it is the I am, comma, becoming. The I am becoming more of itself in some way through each of us. This is what we meet in our spiritual practice. This is what meets us in our spiritual practice, and as discussed before, it's like the parable of the prodigal son. You come to this thing, and it says, hey, you're back. It's like you never left. It treats you like you never left, you know? Because why? Because we never did. We couldn't leave it. Where would we go? There's nowhere else for us to stand. So as we think about the world that we're in right now and the situations, it's been called a world on fire. It's been called all sorts of dramatic things, and we know there's an awful lot going on there. 25 wars. Not like you needed to hear this morning, but there are 25 wars currently raging on the planet, most of which we've heard of, and a few that we haven't, that we're not deeply engaged in. They don't cross our field of vision unless we have people who live in these countries. And you and I, where we are, we're pretty well, things are pretty calm right now at this moment, for the most part, where we are. How do we heal all of this? That's why it's the I am. And it's not the you are. Okay? And it's not the they ought to be. It's the I am. I go into the place within myself where I know that I and my source are one. And from that comes my grace, and from that comes my peace. So here's to a world beyond war. Here's to a world where we know where all the flowers have gone. And it's springtime in the world. And they're back. And they're back. This profusion of beauty and wonder and aroma, you know. We're back in that paradise sort of place. So next week, more on this. We're going to talk about forgiveness and so on. And then you're going to hear more about this too. But 2 weeks from today, you are in for a very special treat, because you're special, not a guest she hadn't been a guest since the first day she was here, but she got her visitor pack. Did you keep your visitor pack? Okay. We may need that back because we're running out. You trade in your visitor pack. Danielle Mercadal is going to speak on the 26th of Thanksgiving weekend. So be sure and, yes, absolutely be sure and be here. Be here or be square. Let's know together now. One life, one power, one presence, pure spirit everywhere, manifesting everywhere, radiant. Created this still, calm, cool day for us. The birds are still moving around in it. The squirrels are busy. They sense a winter coming on. Raccoons are climbing up in the way. If you've ever heard of the it is, but the physical fitness regimen called parkour, where you move from place to place by crossing over whatever stands between point A and point B. That's what raccoons taught us. They brought that into the world. They can travel across any surface. Well, they're busy out there. And all forms of life are busy out there. And our hemisphere gathering in for the winter, storing up food and storing up body fat and getting ready to have nice long hibernation. In this environment, it is so easy to feel the presence of one life, one intelligence, one great beating heart to fashion all this from within itself. And so what I affirm and know for each person listening here, the self that you are, the self that I am, makes itself known. From behind the scenes, through all the noise, around any chaos that might exist, presents itself. Mind meeting mind, consciousness greeting consciousness. And it says to each of us, you are my beloved child in whom I am well represented. Know this and be healed. I affirm and know a world beyond war, beyond conflict, and beyond upset. I affirm and know great good is coming to us all, because it's never left. It's coming out from behind the curtain. For this knowing and its manifestation in form, everywhere I turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
Now, I also want to thank each and every one of you for being here. We know you have a choice every single Sunday, and you choose to be with us, and so we are grateful for that. We're grateful for your presence. We're grateful for your love and support. We are grateful for any and all monetary donations that you give to us. It is because of what you do for us and give to us that we can be here giving back to you. So thank you for everything you do and everything that you are. And I invite you now to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
So now here's what I'm going to tell you. I am the wife of a veteran. I am the daughter of a veteran. I am the granddaughter of veterans. Both of my grandfathers were in the service. So I've thought about that. What do we say other than thank you? That we are actively working on a world where that kind of service is no longer necessary. That's what I would say. All the other services that the military do are wonderful. They go over, they build hospitals. Yeah, I want to do that kind of service. I don't want them to have to carry guns anymore. That's what I say. So that's what I'm going to know. That's the world that I'm going to know, that I'm actively working on in my spiritual practice and in my daily regular life. That's what I work on. So that's what I'm going to treat for now on this beautiful fall day. I'm going to invite you to step with me into the consciously sacred. It is all sacred all the time. But I'm going to ask you to consciously enter into that. And know with me that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. If we're going to talk about the ties that bind, that hold us together, we live that life. We are that presence. We channel that love into this world. We are literally the hands and feet of God. And through that knowing, all things are possible. That the resources that are necessary get where they need to be. That the words that need to be heard are spoken. That the minds that need to be opened are opened. And the hearts that need to be opened. And the hearts that need to be healed are healed. Love is the most powerful healing force. And I know that each and every one of you are open channels for that love to flow through. As I am. And I know that we dream of a world that is prosperous and abundant and loving and free and carefree and beautiful and growing in its season. And that each and every one of us are guided in what it is that will bring that dream into a reality. The only thing that is asked of us is to be the beloved children of God that we are. And to know that with all of our being. And I'm grateful to know that. And I'm grateful for a teaching that teaches me who I am and who each and every one of you are. And I am grateful for this community, for this place, for the ministers, for the practitioners, for the musicians, for each and every one of you, for the technology that allows us to reach so far beyond our small community here, out into the reaches of space. And I'm grateful because it feels good to be grateful. And gratitude is just another word for love. And so I release my word, my knowing, into law with love, knowing that it is done. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love
So it is.
So it is.